these people want to come and see is the Western Wall. I respect, of course, I respect other religions, and but the problem is, if you are coming on a pilgrimage, why you are coming and asking most of the question, or most of the people who wants to come, the first thing they ask for me, it's not, for instance, the Nativity Church, or it's not the Holy Sepulchre, or it's not any one of the shrines. What they do ask is oh, I want to go and see. I want to go and see the Jewish quarter. I want to go and see the Western Wall. And I found out that this is part of a plan that the Zionist ideologists are implementing in the West in order to deface, or in order to deface the Muslim Christian culture, as well as the identity, the Christian identity in the city. So, basically, there is several issues also that I indicate, which is the church itself. The church itself they are doing their best right now, but we, in general, we have a big problem that the 13 Christian denominations, of course, the church as entity or the Christian community, are divided among 13 Christian denominations in this country, and but they are doing their best. I have to respect what they are doing, but actually they don't have a mission, goal, and strategic plan. We towards one goal. I mean, each one of these Christian denominations or Christian churches, what they do basically is each one of them are working towards something that they believe in. But none of them, since 1948, none of them are working towards one mission or one goal or one strategic plan. And I believe in order to solve the Christian problem, or increase to increase the Christian identity in the city, we have to work in a strategic, concrete strategic plan that serves our goal. And our goal is to strengthen the Christian presence in the Holy Land in order to survive in this country. I mean, one of the things is that always in every single meeting, in every congregation meeting, church meetings, or any of the church, or even the community, actually the community, they have so many problems in terms of lack of education about the Christian culture. They need a whole strategic plan in order to keep them living in this country. One of the things that the first question I asked when I give you a small example. One of the questions that I asked before I start doing my research, it took me, by the way, it took me 5 years to do it, because there is too many things out there in order to search for, is how many Christians living in the country. All right. So I have about 12 different statistics talking about the Christians in the Holy Land. Like in Jerusalem, all the people believe that there is, according to the church, there is about 8,000 or 10,000. Some people say, according to the Israeli, they say 12,000. According to the Palestinian Authority, they say 8,000, and all this. But really, do we know how many people are living in Jerusalem? No, we don't, because basically we don't have the capability to let the people do and research about these things. Unfortunately, the person in charge, he's the one who decides how many people are living in the country, and so in order to conclude, I mean, this is actually, it's an introduction. I know we don't have too many times, but too many. It's designed for a special time, but really, we need, as the Christian community, we need a whole new set of plans that all the Christians to work together in order to face what's happening in the old city of Jerusalem, in Jerusalem in general, in particular, the defacement of the Christian culture and identity. So I don't know if anybody wants to ask anything about, I can continue talking until tomorrow morning about all kinds of things, but if there is some kind of question about anything, maybe.
Yeah, so in summary, what we have been hearing before we heard this discussion from Usama, Dr. Usama, is that pro-Palestinians have always said that the problem with the diminishing and dwindling Christian community in Jerusalem is the occupation. Rightist pro-Zionist groups were attributing this problem to a trend going in the Arab and Muslim world with the Islamization on political Islam, and saying that this is the cause for the diminishing community, and that is the oppression and repression that Christians are facing in the Arab world. What Dr. Usama has exposed is that there are social and economic and religious reasons from within the Christian community that are causing this diminishing population, immigration, whichever cause and whichever reason we want to attribute to that, and that the solution is, or part of the solution, to some of these issues is within the Christian community, and this is why we found that this is a very interesting perspective. I saw Dr. Mahdi wants to add, so let's give the floor to Dr. Mahdi.
Thank you very much indeed. Are we talking about the country Palestine and the city Jerusalem and its people, how they relate to political narrative, historical narrative, religious narrative, and what is really missing to understand the link between the historical narrative and the religious narrative for the people of the country. I don't see Christian, Muslim, Jews in separate of belonging to the country. I don't see understanding the differences between the historical narrative and the religious narrative. What is really there is the role of the church, the role of the mosque, and the role of the synagogue. In terms of the church today, they are distancing themselves from the community, as I understand, but they have been trying very hard to maintain the symbols, the monument, the related material to the community. The community itself as people, whether they are Christian or Muslim or Jews, the Christian community as Palestinian community, they lack maybe to understand between the historical narrative and religious narrative. My understanding from Dr. Usama that the religious narrative is not deep-rooted in their mentality, in their daily life, in terms of belonging to the city, to belong to the country. As Palestinian Christian, I would like to understand what comes first, religious narrative, historical narrative, or political narrative, or the mixer between them, and who can present them to the young generation?
The question is for me. It's
yes,
Dr. Mahdi, are you for me? Okay, it should be now. When I talked about the plan, it's not just one thing. It's all together. It's the history, the religion, the culture is all together. But the problem is we are dealing with this issue separately, and that's why I always emphasize is that we have to have a connected plan between the three of them. It's not just one by itself, Doctor. You cannot separate the Christian community from its religion. You cannot separate the cultural aspect of the Christian culture and heritage from its religion. You cannot separate the history of the Christian community from its religion. So it's a three-in-one, like you mentioned, it's the 3-in-1. So the problem is that all the local Christian community, the church as entity and part of the Christian community. When I first presented who are the Christian community, I didn't mean to separate the church from the people, but in order to find out the real problem, I did kind of separate the terminology of both of them. All right, so so both of us, all the church community, the local Christians, or we call them, or like the living stone, like in the Bible, they are calling the local Christian community the living Bible, the living stones and the salt of the earth. Both of them should be working together, but how? And this is my main research. This is my main analysis, is to work towards plan. Did you ever see anybody that, or did any of the church, for instance, they are telling the people, go and start researching about something related to the Christian community? No. Everything we know, it is given to us by a particular people that they have this kind of ideology since the beginning of the century. Which I means we have, both of us, the local community, as well as the church, they should work together in order to find the right solution by combining the history, religion, the culture, and the social life of this problem. I was so much surprised. I was so much surprised when I start analyzing how much of the local Christians in this country know their history. And I was astonished about the lack of educational information about the history of this country. It is unbelievable, like our kids, everybody is raising on different kind of perspective or different kind of material. Unfortunately, also as well, the Palestinian curriculum or the Palestinian Authority or State of Palestine, they have to contribute in this. And what do I mean they have to contribute in this? There is several people analyzed, and I'm one of them, analyzing the historical, the history, the curriculum of the history in the country, like the curriculum that is set by the Palestinian Authority to our children, into the schools. And go and look, and I start analyzing from grade number 5 until grade number 12. All right, I start analyzing the historical facts that they are teaching our kids. And unfortunately, there is hundreds of false facts that they are presenting. So what we are doing right now is we are going through a dark tunnel that we don't know what the end of it. The only result that we know, and all the people talks about it, is that the local Christians or the Christians of this country are immigrating. And they are, most of the church leaders, unfortunately, or not all of them, but most of them, they are connecting this problem, doctor, to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And this is not just the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. We have a lot, of course, big part of it is the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. But we have to find out what really, in addition to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, which in our hand, we cannot do anything about it at this stage. The only thing that we can do is doing dissemination, is doing advocacy and all this, but we cannot do anything right now as a person living in the old city of Jerusalem or living in Jerusalem in particular, Christian. I'm seeing my Christian culture is in danger or at risk. I mean, lately, I will tell you a very good example that is not even the church leaders that are not aware of it, or they are afraid to talk about it. You know, as working as a tour guide, you see everything. You see all the people, you see different culture, you see everything, you see it here, because you walk in the streets and you talk to all kinds of people. Now, lately, for instance, and also I would like to emphasize about the Zionist plan, ideological plan. is that now there is a lot of people, for instance, there is a lot of people are going to the Holy Sepulchre, which is, for those who doesn't, I'm sure everybody knows, this is the place where Jesus crucified, buried, and resurrected. There is Zionist ideologists or Zionist right-wing people, they are going into the church and lighting candles, or going into one of the tombs around the area over there and start praying. Now, if you see such things and you go and tell the church, wait a second, there is a plan behind this. And you know how the Israelis, especially the Zionists, are slowly taking everything. Like, for instance, before, you know, the actions, for instance, I give you an example, the actions or the problems that are happening on Dome of the Rock. It's the beginning of implementation of a plan, which means that these Zionists are going on top of the Dome of the Rock doing this. But it took them so many years in order to reach to this point. I mean, they are building such activities in the mind of the people. Like, for instance, if somebody comes to my church, a Zionist is a Jew, listen, all the places are for everybody to pray. But if this particular Zionist person, and we know that this person is going into any church and start praying, the next morning or after 1 year or 2 years, he will start saying, oh, this belongs to me. So why? The ignorance of what's happening in terms of cultural activities, all right, makes us at the end regret that we didn't do any kind of plan to oppose or to stop the Zionist ideology. Like, I mean, now if you go to for instance, I give you another example. If you go to Mount Zion, I mean, now everybody knows the problem of the Last Supper room. I mean, I cannot imagine until today that the Last Supper room, all right, it is the place where the Pentecost happened, is the place where the first Christian community started, is not with the hand of the Christians, even though it was proven. And what's happening right now, we take all the people go there. It's not allowed, according to the status quo or to the agreement, it's not allowed for the people to pray over there. And the whole vicinity around that area, it is controlled or it is owned right now or taking over a very extreme right wing. It's called, they call themselves the diaspora, you know, the diaspora yeshiva and the hippie. They do all kinds of dancing things in order to pray. Now, for instance, this particular place, it's not a place, it's a very essential for our culture and our religion, where the first Christian community started, all right, we cannot even pray over there. I mean, why the Israeli government are bringing these people and putting them there, if according to what they are saying, they multicultural and they respect all the religion to pray in all these places, why they are letting these people to stay over there, and why they are taking control of it and they are not giving it back to the Christians. So, which means the only answer I see it is that there is a designated plan towards defacement or towards the Christian as well as Muslim, of course. But right now I'm talking about the Christian culture and the Christian community in this particular sense. So, why? So all of it, we are not aware as local churches, as local Christian community about that particular plan. And the whole point of it is that we have to start looking into the Christian problems in a different perspective. That's why this is what I believe in, and based on I don't, you know, based on facts and based on my analysis of the whole issue. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to do is to introduce extracurriculum activities to teach the Christian community. First, I'm fixing my house, then I'm going to the Palestinian community in general. I wanted to have an extracurriculum activity to be taught in schools about the Christian history for the Christians at this particular stage for the Christians. But do you think that they will agree on it? No, they are not going to agree on it, because each one of them, each one of the church leaders, they are thinking about their position. They are thinking about it in a different perspective, because three things, again, I will mention. We don't have a common plan. We don't have strategic plan. We don't have the mission and the goal for it. So all, and I will prove it right now, since 1948 until now, every church leader inside the country and outside the country, they are talking about the Christian immigration. Until now, nobody can solve this problem. And if, like some other Christian community, if like some other church leaders, they say, oh, the Christian problem will be solved after we solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I mean, we have to look in it in a rational way, because I don't think right now or within 50 years or 100 years, we're gonna solve this particular problem the way we think about it. All right. All what we are doing right now is we're trying to solve our daily life within the Israeli hostility towards us. So I mean, many people, I mean, this is one of the things that it's not a new idea, it's over there. It's already there. There is a lot of people think about it. But the problem is how to implement it. The problem is how we can implement such an idea without, you know, we can, of course. The only way that we can do it is that all the Christian churches, all the Christian leaders, including the Palestinian Authority, as well as the local Muslim community in the old city of Jerusalem, to start working on it. Because also we have a big problem with the extreme religious sects from the three denominations. I'm not talking just about the Jews, and also the Muslims, as well as the Christians. How can I convince? If you know what, one of the Zionist leaders of one of the right-wing organization in Jerusalem, he wrote on one of the newspapers that the Christian community in the whole land, they shouldn't be here, and they are the wording exactly, they are bloodsuckers. All right. Anybody, no one start condemning this thing. Why this particular person go to an official newspaper and publish this kind of a thing? Do you think that he just like always Israel says, oh, he's just a crazy guy that he's doing all these kind of things? Like the previous patriarch Michel Sabah, he said that every time something happened to the Christian community, or something happened to their property, all right, Israel will come out and say, oh, these are teenagers, they don't know what they are doing. How they don't know what they are doing, all right, and already they did it. I mean, there is more than 200 cases for the past 5 years that vandalizing the local, the properties of the Christians. They are, you know, they destroy some of the churches. Of course, in 2015, everybody knows about burning the church in Tabqa and all these activities, but nobody stopped them. And unfortunately, I believe that the local Christian community, as well as the church leaders, they are very afraid, locally and internationally. They are very afraid to talk about these issues. You know, internationally, they are afraid to talk about this issue for one simple reason. I've been working with every bishop, lots of bishops coming from the States. I've been working with cardinals. I would be working with all kinds of priests coming over there. If they talk with all the education I'm giving these people in order to go and do some kind of advocacy, or awareness to their people, to their parishes, no one will come out and talk anything about it. You know why? Because the big secret that these Zionist ideologies are holding in their hands, if they call you anti-Semitic. In the States or in Europe countries, if you are a priest, or if you are clergy, or if you are holding any religious position, if they claim that you are anti-Semitic, you will be losing everything. So that's why advocacy should be carried out in a proper way towards to face such, I mean, dilemma. I mean, this is big issue. I mean, when people come in, even I'm talking about the traditional, communities that they are coming from outside the country. I mean, the first thing that to tell me is, when did you convert to Christianity? You know, this is one of the questions that every single group I guide, all right, is that they say, oh, when did you convert to Christianity? So we lack of advocacy internationally as well as locally also as well. So that's why they always, I say, I think it's the time, I don't know if they will listen, but I'm presenting my work towards my community. I don't think if this is the right time, in order at least few religious leaders, as well as the local Christian community, their organizations, their research people or personnels that they are doing a lot of research about this play, is to sit and start planning a strategic plan. And believe me, it's very easy to do it if you have the will. But this is since the beginning, let's say 1948, even before that, it's, you know, we are talking about the same things, about the same problems, about everything, but we never ever give a solution. We never ever give a solution.
Okay.
You know, always church leaders as well as the Christian community, everybody. You go down to all the Christian parishes in this country, and you talk about the Christian problem. They say the immigration, or they say we don't have economical a good economical situation. Is it true? I don't know. It's becoming like a trend to say the same thing over and over again. And the problem is lack of researchers, lack of finding the real problem.
Yeah, let's listen to other voices, Dr. Usama. I have in order raising their hands, Ms. Hind Khouri, followed by Bassem Adawin, followed by Dr. Manib Yunan. So Hind, the floor is yours. You are giving a certain perspective. Let's see if others agree or disagree with this perspective, and see if there are other points they would like to raise. Hind? Ms. Hind Khouri? Okay, so let's give the floor to Bassema.
You hear me? Thank you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for hosting and having this session. Actually, it is quite important. I'm happy. I'm really very happy to hear to Dr. Usama. And I just allow me to introduce myself. My name is Bassema Adawin. I'm responsible as a program manager of human rights and democracy, working with the EU. And I have been doing actually my master's in international development. And this is one of the topics that I wanted to search about. It's about the Christian community and reality in the Palestinian territories and how we can help and protect the Palestinian Christian existence in the country. And honestly, it was very sensitive to tackle about it. And it is a sensitive matter, even for me as a person who works in development, how to approach such topic. We had always been discussing if it's really, we have to consider it as a minority, as an, to represent it in the priorities. And I have been consulting even other colleagues, Christian colleagues, on this matter. It's not easy, but first of all, I would like to say that it seems that, okay, as a Christian, I will say that it's easy to reflect all the issues that they are facing in East Jerusalem, especially when it comes, that's true, it's not political issues that has to do with their presence and in the country. The same is like for Muslims. And it's bigger, it's like social economic, issues where also donors, actually, it has never been put on our agenda. And it has been really, we don't know if we have to tackle it, if it would add other conflicts to the conflicts that we are having. I guess you do understand what I'm saying, because at the end, Christians are Palestinians. They are part of the bigger picture, and they are very quite important. And I guess really, maybe politically, we haven't really been used quite important, even for the political solution. We have really, as Palestinians as well, I guess there has been a component that we have felt concerning the advocacy on Christian, and it seems that a lot also, from international communities, there is Christians who are really supporting a lot the existence of Israel, and they just get surprised to have and to know that really Jesus has been, a Palestinian, or we have also Palestinian Christians that they are upset. Anyway, I would like to say that really this is one, I guess it's a quite important issue. We have to pay attention to it. But really, as you said, Dr. Usama, we have no clear idea how to approach it. Is it really that we have to give much more attention, a focus to the minority of the Palestinians? I don't want to even, I fear sometimes to use this word, minority, it's demographic, because they are part of the society as Palestinians, because also there are others, like in the old city, for example, it's quite important. We have programs. So how should we really, I don't understand, how should we really help to preserve our Christians in the country and other also youth due to social economic, because it's not only Jerusalem. I'm sure that in Beit Jala and the percentages, and even in Gaza Strip, they're even in the whole country, I guess they are, they are more to see the impact of the social economic political situation due to the numbers more than others. But it's still, I guess it's our duty. And as you said, it's not only a duty of the PA, but as I think also duty as donors and Europeans and other international community is to preserve the presence and the existence of the Christian Palestinian in their own country. So sometimes really we don't know how to do it, and there is no clear guidance. So it would be good really in the future, as you said, maybe we start thinking loudly and really to be sure that this will not be really adding other, layers of conflicts to our internal conflict, because sometimes we fear discussing such things, and we know sometimes we have some people in the community that we might use such things, negatively. That's my point, and I really appreciate the discussion on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Khouri, did you want to speak? You raised your hand first.
Yeah, now I can. I'm sorry. If I may, how long do I have? I mean, I just want to know. Can I speak my mind, or just ask a question, or?
No, we would like to for you to reveal what's on your mind.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Listen, I thank you very much for holding this discussion, which I think is very important. I thank you, and I agree with Usama that I think on the issue of narrative, which is very, very important because it's a very defining element on the understanding of identity. I think we as Palestinians in general, we failed, not only in the curriculum, as Usama explained, but also in our discourse. Historically, now, these days, anyway, this is a whole issue that should be discussed aside. On the issue of the role of the church and its distancing from the community, this is the plan. I mean, the whole idea is how the church have been maneuvered since the 1800s. I mean, there's nothing new. They're big landowners, especially the Orthodox Church. The Christian heritage in general is more defined like a Western heritage, and It's very important for Israel, which defines itself as a westernized country or a Western country. I think we also, at the Palestinian level, we have a problem identifying what is a Christian. I mean, I don't understand anymore what is being a Christian. I grew up in the 60s, and I think the concept of being a Christian was much clearer. It was working for justice, it was being honest, and you know, all these wonderful values. And I think there is confusion on that issue now. And yes, there is fear, and what is a Christian is being courageous. What I see is fear, both from the churches and the community, and this is a shame. Now, what my question to Usama is basically on the goal he has identified, and I wonder if this is the right goal, which is preserving Christian presence or Palestinian Christian presence in the Holy Land. In my view, Israel is very much aware of the importance of Christian presence in the Holy Land. They have already brought in as immigrants, and not coincidentally, they have about more like 600,000 Christian Russians, Orthodox. I heard it once on Israeli television, they have 120,000 Filipino Catholic Christians in the country, when all the Christians, whether inside the Green Line or outside the Green Line, we barely are 120,000 and growing less every day. And again, as Usama explained, there is a plan. This has been planned. Israel has convinced the West through discourse in general that they are the guardians of Christian presence in the Holy Land. They have allied themselves with Christian Zionism worldwide, and not coincidentally, we see every American president being sworn in by a Christian Zionist pastor. Christian Zionism is the only growing church in the whole world. I mean, you go to South Africa, there are churches with 20,000 persons attending the church, and they're Christian Zionists. Or you go to Korea, it's the same, or in the US, as we know, or Latin America, or even Scandinavia. Plus, there is a sense, and being here very honest, is a sense of Christian Zionism in the traditional church that we haven't addressed. I spoke about the maneuvering of the churches here, and I know that the churches are terrified. I mean, Usama, with all my respect for the importance of planning, and we know very well if we fail to plan, we plan to fail, but the churches are not able to do any kind of strategic planning, not our churches, certainly. And I know how they're being maneuvered even now, not only historically, like they're terrified with all the electricity bills they receive, all the water bills they receive, the taxation they're supposed to pay, so they're always under stress and they're always terrified. We have to also be aware that a lot of work is being done to convert local Christians to Zionist Christians. I mean, this is ongoing. This is another big discussion. It's very sad, but it's happening because people are poor or people need more guidance from the churches, and these churches are, I have no problem with Christian churches of any kind, but we have to be aware of the political content. And then, of course, they oppress Palestinian Christians. That's why Palestinian Christians are the one immigrating or becoming so poor, they can barely cope with their daily life. And if you're talking about Christians in the old city, it's a disaster. This is a community which used to be a pride. I mean, I grew up in this city and I know what the street looks like, and going to church, what it looks like, and what the community looks like. Now there's so much poverty, there's drug addiction. I mean, incredible poverty. I mean, pathetic. And barely people can cope with the needs of daily life, literally daily, not even monthly, day by day. This is not a community that can flourish and that can sustain itself. And if those who stay will only be poor and basically will have no voice. They can't speak for themselves or their rights. I'm sorry if I took so long. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to, anybody want?
Yes, it's my turn.
We have Dr. Yunan.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. مساء الخير جميعا. Thank you. I would like really, I have many comments. I hope you'll allow me. Of course, I am thankful again that PASSIA is taking the issue of Palestinian Christians and its heritage, because usually the Christian community feels ignored even by Palestinian community sometimes, because we have to speak the same language as yours sometimes. And that's very important that we, and what Usama has really brought up, you see. But I would like really to, I have some comments here, being also one of the heads of churches and being sometimes, you know, working on these issues every day. You know, there are certain points which are right, certain points we have really to talk about it. First of all, when we speak on immigration, all studies show us there are 4 reasons of immigration. All studies from 2000 until today, 4 reasons. One is the lack of peace in the horizon. The second one is the measures of occupation, especially in Jerusalem, withdrawing, you know, the IDs and so on, and Judaizing Jerusalem and so on. The economic situation, I mean, unemployment among Palestinian Christians in Jerusalem is high, and it's ignored many times, you see. And finally is the growth of extremism both in Palestine and in Israel. Even among some Christian communities, we have the growth of extremism and fanaticism. Now, what I would like you to understand, you see, that usually Christians, our members, they call themselves secular Christians. What this doesn't mean they divorce themselves from the church, but it means that they want baptism, marriages, funerals. If you ask them, you know, for donations for certain projects, they are ready, but they don't want to come every Sunday to church. They don't want to belong there. And you know, there are certain, and that's the reason there is among us Christian, Palestinian Christian, there is ignorance sometimes to our faith. Yes, I agree with Usama. We are more cultural Christians than we are maybe committed Christians. And of course, with this we have to do. Also, the church sometimes is to be blamed because sometimes some priests, or they wanted only to favor their own people by giving them certain, you know, assistance and ignoring the whole community. And of course, this have created a dependence on certain priests who became more, you know, let me say, paternalistic. This is the least I can say. And they were afraid, anybody is afraid to criticize them. And that's really part of it. Now, when we come to the issue of Christian Zionism, you know, I have been alerting, and Patrick Michel Sabbah, you see, we have been always alerting. There are 2 important issues that are ignored. One, they want to call us minority. That means we are unimportant in our society. Even when you say we are less than 1% of the total, we are insignificant and unimportant, and they want to implant it in our minds. And this is the reason we are saying, I am an Arab Palestinian Christian. And that's very important to emphasize it. I belong to my people and to this land from the day of Pentecost 2,000 years ago. And that's very important. The second thing is the story of Christian Zionists, and Usama knows it, and Hind and others who are with us here. They want to put in our minds and the minds of many Christians, we are persecuted by the Muslims. And this story is there. They are picking on small stories, sometimes unimportant, sometimes they are real. And our society is not ready to hear us, you know, that please be aware that Christians, and they want us to know that we are persecuted in order, if you read, for example, the US report, you know, on human rights and religious freedom, you find it there, especially the PA. Although when you compare PA and Israel in these reports, you find that in PA is much better than in Israel. When you compare it, you see, when you compare notes. So for this reason, you know, we have also done something like a Liqa Center, like, you know, Sabil, Kairos document, and other where we are speaking on liberation theology and trying to attract Christian academics and others in order to speak to ourselves and to speak to abroad. And that's the reason I agree with Usama that tourists do not like to come to churches, but we have, in my church at least, we have told them you have to speak on alternative pilgrimage. You must, when you come to visit the living stones, not the dead stones. You can see the dead stones anywhere in the world, but come to see us. We have succeeded in this program. I don't say 100%, but we have succeeded in all churches that we get Christians who come to visit us and hear us and worship with us and be with us. And that's very, very important, you know, issue which we have really to take, and more to, not to speak about tourism, but about pilgrim. I tell you, I mean, Usama, I don't want to offend, but some guys don't like it because they don't benefit out of it.
I agree totally. I agree totally.
Thank you.
I totally agree.
They don't bring them, and for this reason, we are in sometimes they put the program on a time when you see they don't go shopping and so on, and it's a time which is not suitable for there are no activities in the church. We don't want them just to come to see, you know, a living museum of Palestinian Christians in one church. We want them to worship, to be with us, and so on. So there is ignorance, I can say, and I agree on the curricula. The curricula, for example, yes, we are speaking theology, we are speaking there, teaching about the sacraments, about many things, but we are not saying what is the role of Christians since the Pentecost in the Islamic era, in the Islamic reign, how Christians were really assisted in the Islamic governance, in the Islamic culture, how much we are today, how we are living here in Jerusalem. I think the curricula has not succeeded. And for this reason, you know, I know when we apply a project to the EU or to other countries, they always say, you are faith-based organization, we cannot give you. We give only to NGOs. I mean, so how can we help? I mean, there is a criticism of the governments. They have ignored us. I don't want only lip service. When we want projects to improve our work, you know, we find that governments are saying, no, we don't help faith-based organizations. We only help NGOs. And that, of course, is a big problem, which does not help us to develop ourselves. You see, for example, if I want to speak on a housing project, which our churches or other churches, barely you find a government helping us, but you find churches are helping, you see. And for this reason, what I want to say is we need more of these workshops to understand us. And I tell you, it's not, you know, a depressive situation. I have many friends who are lawyers and others who ask me, why can't we start in Jerusalem, you know, to study, you know, our Bible, and to study others, because we grew in churches and they are not Lutherans. They are from all the churches. Can't we form, you know, a forum where we can just to learn more about Christianity and about its faith? And I'm going to do it, you see, because it's very important, and to attract those who are interested. That's part of our work. I want to stop here. Thank you. I'm sorry I was too long.
Thank you. No, thank you. Okay.
Usama, if you
want
to
yes, yes. There is a few things about just to tell you a hint. You said something that I don't know if I am. I don't know if I am like. I don't know what Christian is or what Christianity is, or
not you.
Mentioned, no, you're talking about yourself as Christian. You're talking about yourself as Christian, and this is the whole point of it. This is the whole point of what I'm trying to do here, is to go back to the roots and to start identifying ourselves without doing research and without having a real strategic planning among all the Christians. We won't understand what's the meaning of Christianity. You know, how, you know, all the people, everybody here in the old city of Jerusalem. You mentioned that you've been living, you are from the old city of Jerusalem. I'm from the old city of Jerusalem. And I'm the time, you know, if I didn't left, most probably I'm a drug addict right now. But that does not mean let me. The thing is, that does not mean we have drugs. The problem is we'll keep our ideology the same. We'll keep our way of thinking about things the same way it is. It's not your problem or my problem. Is that, for instance, if we don't know what Christianity, what is the Palestinian Arab Christians in the Holy Land? I mean, because we don't know it. We need people to start looking in order to start finding the right answer if what the meaning of Christian in the Holy Land. You know, that's why I'm saying something. That's why I say, because each one of them, like Bishop Munir, he was talking about like the Zionists and all this, they have this plan. They've been working on this plan for the past 50 years. They know exactly what they want to do. We, each one of us as local Christians, each one of us, we talk without having a goal to our talk. This is the problem. That's why from the beginning I said we have to have a plan. Like, for instance, by the way, the Christians in the Holy Land, in particular in Jerusalem, they are not poor. Poverty is not in the old city of Jerusalem. You know, I will tell you, this is what we do. According all the Christians in the Holy Land, in particular the old city of Jerusalem, are middle class workers. They work, and we have a lot of people that they have high positions and they do good. I'm from there. I know that. Now the thing is, Hint, you know what? The problem, like for instance, the idea of the local Christians in the old city of Jerusalem, they are drug addicts. Most probably this was in the 80s. This was in 87 when Israel started, in 87 after the Intifada, when Israel started introducing drugs in the old city of Jerusalem for free. And the thing is, I understand, but right now there is no such a thing. It tends to be, I had a research that I did with another specialist about the drug addicts in the old city of Jerusalem. We have 800 drug addicts in the old city of Jerusalem, and most of them are coming from different quarters. Like we have, of course, still the Christian community in the old city of Jerusalem. Some of them are drug addicts. But even though now I'm questioning whether we should have like a rehab center or not. Like for instance, one of the Catholic organizations, they are funding thousands and thousands of dollars towards a rehab center in the old city of Jerusalem, and it's useless because we do, you know, when you say about drug addicts, you're not talking about marijuana or you're not talking about hash. Sorry, you're talking about really a very hard addiction, and I'm one of the people that I began sending people to a place called Comunità Incontro in Italy in order to cure these drug addiction from the old city of Jerusalem. But right now we don't have this kind of issue as a major issue. This is one thing I'm telling you. And most of the people, I found out that most of the people who are leaving the country, they are the wealthy people, that the people who has money. It's not the people who are poor that they are leaving. Now this is very important. Now we keep telling, like Bishop said, he mentioned about the fourth thing for the immigration, and he said that the population and all this. The problem is that we keep I agree totally with what he's saying about the immigration, but I mean the main goal for a person to immigrate. I mean, I went through this process because I went to the States. Of course, I went to do my graduate studies. And when I came back, until today, my friends telling you, are you crazy? Why you came back? You stay over there, there is big opportunities. So I'm trying to find out why the reason. You know, when you decide to immigrate, there is some kind of a cloud above your head that you don't see anything good in this country. You don't see anything good. Now, what's happening with the Christian community is that because they have ties over there and they think that if you go to the States or to Europe, you start collecting the money of the trees. This is how they believe in it. But the thing is, the main the main thing that they don't have as local Christian community, and I mentioned it before, is we don't have this sense of belonging to this country based on religion. And I will tell you the difference between me as a local Christian and as a Jew and as a Muslim. In our religion, by the way, and Bishop Munir, maybe he can comment on that, our Christian faith is based on, our Christian religion is based on faith. The Muslim religion and the the Jewish religion also, it is based on the land. I mean, every single person, he committed to the land based on his religion. But in Christianity, we are not committing into the land based on our religion, because our religion is about the faith. This is my perspective about it.
No, it's because the Quran, somebody else can correct me, Quran incorporated the biblical story and narrative in a way, and the New Testament did not, because it was a continuation in a sense. That's how it was, a continuation of the Old. It's a New Testament to the Old Testament. May I intervene a bit, because I don't want us to digress from the subject, which is the presence of the Christians in this country, which I think is very important, not because we are Christians only, but because Palestinian Christians were the guardians of a very important heritage, of the Christian heritage, in this land where Jesus was born and he was crucified. That's where Christianity was born. We are the guardians of this, and we are being distanced from that guardianship, from that very important role, which we kept over centuries. So my point of contention with you is, how do we define our goal? Because I think the framing is very important. Now we're trying to frame Christian presence into looking at statistics, why they go, why they don't go, rich, poor, etc. I think the framing is not correct. I think the framing should be into the wider Palestinian context, where this pluralism is important. We haven't been able to define as part of our identity, this wonderful pluralism, which is inherent to Palestine. Palestine can only be plural. So we need to frame it in a way where we say, we in this country, we are not minorities as the Balfour Declaration defined us. No, we are the indigenous people. We are now, some of us are Muslims, but they were Christians, and maybe vice versa. I don't know, history moved on and people change religion according to political power in this country. So we need to define the historical narrative. But I think what is important with regard to our question today is, we didn't know as a Palestinian level how to deal with the issue of religion. Absolutely. I mean, Israel called itself a biblical name. Every time I go to church, since I was a little girl, I hear the word Israel, which comes very often in the New Testament. I shiver. I don't know how to handle it. But we haven't handled it as a collective, as Palestinians. I don't understand, why is it for a plural society like a Palestinian society, plural historically, I mean, horizontally and perpendicularly, I mean, in both directions, why we don't have a ministry of religion? I mean, religion has played a very important role in how the politics evolved, and we don't know how to deal with it. We have fantastic research, not only the Kairos document, in the Christian churches, they have done fantastic research, but the secular people don't want to deal with religious issues. So if you go to women, I went to women myself and I said, look, we need to see how we handle the issue of religion. The first thing you hear is, no, religion is the poison of the people, we don't want to deal with it. And I think this is a very wrong approach. This is the cradle of religion, of the three monotheistic faiths. We need to handle religion. And with regard to Christians, we also can claim the ownership and the right to define what is being a Christian. That's why I spoke about defining what is being Christian. With this mess that they have created of Christianity, in my view, excuse me, Bishop, you know better, but I feel that Christianity has been made a mess of, Christian Zionism and all kinds of things. It has been abused and used politically for too long. We need to say, come, we claim ownership of this faith and we want to define it. It's being good. it's being courageous, it's being working for justice. This is what Jesus stood for. We define what love is, and love is demanding. We have been taught that we should be passive. They choose something, the churches, from the Bible or from the New Testament, and say, you're supposed to be passive. No, we're supposed to be proactive, and that's what the Kairos document calls for. We need to act for justice, and that's what the Bible says as well. So again, there are lots of issues to handle, but basically, if we don't have a central body that deal with the whole issue of religion, religious research, definitions, etc., relationships to our fellow Muslims. And I want to note here that the Kairos document has been translated into, it's a Palestinian Christian document. It's fantastic. It has been translated into 22 languages. We have a Muslim response by Faqih from Gaza called Jamil Salame, which is a response to the Kairos document. I don't understand why doesn't in Jerusalem here, we take this document, correct it, add to it, and let's have a Muslim response to Jerusalem. And let's come with a common human call. You know, the Kairos document ends with a call to create a new humanity. The whole world needs a new humanity. We are in this power that is tearing us apart, which has become the law, is horror. That's what we live through. We need to create something that is more human, and we will find lots of coalitions around the world to work with us. Sorry if I took so long. It's a very big subject, but
just I'm telling you, we need. You know, I agree with you. The problem is we don't have a goal. The local Christian. First of all, I always say we as local Christian part of the Palestinian people, and we are not a minority. Right now, we are small in numbers. But if you go through history, we have like in 1922, the Christian population in Jerusalem was higher than the Muslims and the Jews, of course. All right, we are not. I don't call myself as a minority. I call myself as a community. We are small in number, and that it's not a minority. Okay, but all what you say. All what you said is I agree totally, but we need a plan. We have to put this on the table and start working toward one goal. And this is the first thing I mentioned from the beginning. I said we lack of mission, goal, and strategic plan. Now, I don't know who wants to add, but I have one thing to Bassima. Oh, sorry, go on, Bishop, go, please.
Yeah,
Yes, please.
Go ahead, Doctor.
No, thank you. I would like just to shortly comment, you know, that it's true what you say, Usama, that we are a religion of faith, but at the same time, we have a theology of the land. And especially in the 4th century, there was a bishop called Saint Cyril, the Bishop of Jerusalem, who said, as we have a theology of salvation, we have also the geography of salvation. And that's the reason why pilgrimage is there. And so I think, you know, the Christians, you know, across many centuries, they took that we are living in the geography and the vicinity of the holy places. And that was maybe, and that's important to take it and to understand. My second point is, I think don't expect that all the churches will sit down and make a strategy plan. Some churches are doing it. Don't expect that for various reasons. Which maybe it needs a lecture. Why yes, why not? It's not an easy issue. Although there is good cooperation between the churches today, there is good fraternal relations, but still it's difficult to have one strategy plan because every church is dependent. Those churches maybe who have Palestinian leadership or local leadership, it's much easier to speak together, you know, about it. But there are some churches who are there just for their own sake. So I mean, we have to be careful, you know, when we say all the church, they won't do it. And finally, I would like to say, you know, concerning Christian Zionism, although I want to say I don't want to over-exaggerate, but I don't want to also to under-exaggerate and undermine their role in the world. But we have, been criticizing them. For example, I am the one who started to say already in the year 2000 that they are a false teaching and a heresy. And I was attacked in Jerusalem Post. Then afterwards, Patrick Sabbah and myself and Bishop Riyah, we wrote a statement in 2005 to warn our society and the world of Christian Zionism. And when I read it, it's still valid. We need to pick up these voices and, amplify them, because we know the Christian Zionists are there. They are now more stronger with Mr. Trump and Mr. Pence, because Mr. Pence belongs to them. You see, he belongs to John Hagee, which is Churches United for Israel, which is a strong one, and which even, this normalization today, the Christian Zionists already have seen it's biblical. I don't know how it's biblical, because where was United States or Emirates or other countries? Where were they, in the biblical text? I don't know. But of course, we need really to give a response, because we have to say for our people, this is a heresy. يعني كفر, هدول كافرين بالنسبة لنا, because they don't follow the Bible. They follow their own sick scenarios. And I think the world starts to understand these things, but they are dangerous because they have money, they have power, they have influence, which we don't have, you see. And that's their danger, that with these three, for example, today, I've read about one church in Texas where they said he is only preaching how we will vote to the Republicans in 40 days. He doesn't preach about Jesus. He tells them Jesus wants you to vote like this. It's like some people in Egypt who said, if you don't vote for this or this, you will go to hell. You see, so they said Jesus tells you to vote for the Republicans. So you can see that they are more a political movement, which is sick ideology and dangerous for us, but it really has its own impact more here. And we have together, Muslims and Christians, to combat this kind of sick ideology. It's not theology. And that's, we call it Christian Zionism. They are not only a problem for us, they are a problem for Muslims, even for Jews, because ultimately they want to convert the Jews. And ultimately they speak about Armageddon, a war where really those who don't believe in Jesus will be killed, and so on. These are the three. So they are very dangerous for humanity, not only for Christians in this country. Thank you.
I have a question for you, Bishop. Can we do a plan in order to stand in front of these people?
Oh yes.
Can we draw a plan?
Of course, yes.
Okay. I mean, the idea is every time, yeah, that's why the question why I asked this question is that we always, now I think the way I think about it is that we are bringing, like you said, you brought it in 2005, and I personally read it, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And but the problem here is the thing. When we say something now, I'm saying lots of things, everybody's talking about things, but we never ever set a plan in order to stop this, at least in order to stop affecting us by these Zionist Christians or the evangelical Christians. So that's why I asked you if we can implement a plan. If we can implement,
I can assure you, the National Council of Churches in the United States, because of our statement of 2005, they are now all aware and they combat it in the United States. This is one of the things which we have done together, you see, and we visited quite a lot, and so the churches united, the mainline churches, not the Christian Zionists, of course.
No, we are,
Lutherans, Anglicans, Catholics, Orthodox, Reformed, and so on. So I mean, if we can have a plan, we can work it together, but mostly with those, with those church-based organizations who are really ready, and churches are ready to accept because they feel the danger today.
Mm-hmm.
May I, if you allow me, I noticed that you know the last half hour of this debate has been focusing mainly on Christian Zionists, and I don't know how we drifted from focusing on the Christian community inside Jerusalem and strengthening the Christian community in Jerusalem and preserving the culture to the wider political question of the influence of Christian Zionists on the Christian community inside Jerusalem. Even though there is 2 points that I heard here as a non-Christian, but I am part of the fabric of Jerusalem, and I'm proud of this fabric. The first thing is an important point that was raised, which is the need for Christian Jerusalemites or Jerusalemite Christians to reclaim the leadership of the Christianity, of Christian faith, with all the different denominations, you know, and probably it is a very important thing for Christian Jerusalemites to say that. You know, to explain to Christians worldwide what is Christianity and what is Christianity about, and that those political versions of Christianity are not about real Christianity. The same way that Muslims have this problem that political Islam does not represent Islam in the wider sense, and that you know, political Christians, you know, which is probably a synonym to Zionist Christians nowadays, unfortunately, is something that we need to deal with and to combat. This is one of the things. The second thing is what I have been hearing, what I have been hearing, and there is no problem with that from my perspective as an ordinary Jerusalemite, is why does everything that has to do with the Christian community have to go through the churches? Why don't, you know, ordinary Christians, non-religious Christians, take the lead in addressing Christian communities' issues, especially given the fact that what you have mentioned, Dr. Bishop Yinan, about the fact that faith-based organizations do not enjoy the stature with regards to funding that is enjoyed by other civil society, regular civil society organizations.
Or even churches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Regarding the funding, well, it's based on regarding the funding, that there is one thing that I want to mention about church-based organization, that they are not funded by governments, for instance. And I think I worked with a Christian organization for 8 years and doing all kinds of funding. The problem is that I believe that most of the fund, or excuse me, most of the projects that the church-related organizations, all right, are implementing is for the Palestinian people in general. That if you look at all the church-related organizations in Jerusalem, that they are active, their mission and goal toward the Palestinian people as a whole. All the funds that it comes as a Palestinian. So for church-related organization, for a government funding, for instance, when he sees that you are giving the same service without some kind of uniqueness to whatever you want to call it, to minority, or a problem that they are facing a sect of people, maybe they won't give it to them. Like, I don't know if I get the idea right. Like all the Christian organizations that they are serving in Jerusalem and in the West Bank, they are serving the West, they are serving, sorry, the Palestinian community as a whole, not as a Palestinian Christian. There is no one organization that are working right now in Jerusalem and the West Bank, or non-profit organization or non-governmental organization. They concentrate on the Christian community. All the funds that are coming, everything is to the Palestinian Christian as a whole. So if you define yourself, if you take yourself as a Christian community a little bit outside, and we say in one, just we need one Christian organization to talk about, to start implementing projects towards the local Christian community in particular. I need one, just we need one. We don't need more than that. I think governments all over will start giving money in order to implement this. But
don't we have schools which we are serving the whole society in Jerusalem? How much?
Now the schools, the education. I thought when you talked about it, Bishop, I thought when you talked about it, if you are including the school now, there is totally different issue now. The schoolings, they have, now you can, I mean, the schoolings, there is some people they are funding, and the people now, if we open the issue of the school, it's totally, I think it's different than what I'm referring to is to implement projects. I mean, most of the projects that are implemented by the church-related organization, it goes all of it to the Palestinian community. If I have a fund that needs for developing some school, I will say it's a Palestinian school. I didn't see any projects that are submitted to one of the government in order to present the Christian culture, for instance, in the old city of Jerusalem, or to present the Christian the history in the schools. I never saw this. We never had this. All the Christian-related organizations that we have in here and the West Bank will be directed to the general idea of the Palestinian people. But there is, again, I will say it again, that there is no one single Christian organization, except, I will tell you, except the church itself. Like, for instance, if you're talking about the Catholic churches, or the Catholic institutions, or the Catholic, let's say, schooling, the Catholic school, all of them are, Bishop, you know, all of them are taking their money from the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre, and they are including taking the money, if they are living in the old city of Jerusalem or in Jerusalem under the Israeli control, they will taking money from there. I mean, it's not the funding. I mean, I'm talking about Bassema talked about, we cannot find. She's talking from I think I cannot remember where she's working right now. EU, Bassema. All right, and she said that there is at the United Nations, Bishop, there is a special committee for, if they want to call it minority, they want to call it minority. We are not minorities, but as in numbers, I think we are as a minority in numbers. That's it, just in numbers. All right, but the thing is, if we start presenting that we have a big problem with the Christian community, or with the presence of the Christian community in Jerusalem, or in I see it in Jerusalem is even worse than in the West Bank. Okay, so I'm sure one of the programs, or the programs that the government are doing, all right, are funding, we will get the share of it. But because we are talking about the church-related organization, they are working towards the Palestinians at general, you will not get the fund because there is bigger organizations are taking all the fund out of it. Now I'm talking the technicalities about USAID, EU, and all these kind of things. But why we don't have, for instance, an organization or a small office, we call it development office for the Christian community. It's not fixing a classroom, it's not fixing a road to the parish church, it's not building another church. Let's start finding an organization and that deals just with the local Christian community in Jerusalem and in the whole country, I mean, but in particular Jerusalem. Why we don't have this? When we say, oh, if a lot of people, we are afraid as church clergy as well as local Christians to present your identity in front of everybody. And this is what I'm telling you. This is because we don't know our history. We are not, okay, I'm proud that I'm a Christian, but I'm afraid to present it in front of Christians, in front of Muslims, in front of Jews. Why even in implementing projects? We are afraid to say, I need a $10, like let's say, I need some money in order to fight that particular problem that we have just strictly for the Christians. Why not? I mean, I don't understand why the Christian organizations that we have in this particular country, that all of them, when they talk just about the Palestinian people, which is, I respect, of course, I want it that way, but why no one in this country talks about just an organization, a special organization to deal just with the local Christian community? I'm not against anybody, I'm just telling you, if I...
No, it's very well understood. Problems unique to the Christians need, you know, solutions that are exclusive to Christians. That's fine.
Now the thing is, the thing is that the church, for instance, the church organizations, we cannot. I mean, again, the Christianity in the Holy Land is the local Christian, indigenous, Livingstone, as well as church as an entity. We cannot be away from the church. We are so much by birth. We are connected to the church. But I mean, the church agenda right now, in some of the church, I don't want to generalize it. Some of them, they have their own agenda. I mean, for instance, I will give you a small example. People start, like the Franciscans, the custodian of the Holy Land. The Franciscans, they are the most powerful people because they own lands in the country, because they have the land and they have the shrines, for instance. But the Christian community is not their major, or they are not the major priority for them. Because their mission, we don't know, because their mission is part of controlling and preserving and taking care of the shrines. They are like the local Christians are put in within their agenda, all right? Because they were there, they were living in Jerusalem. I mean, so the problem is for them, we have to start dealing with this issue. For them, the stone is more important than the living stone. For the Franciscans, I'm talking now as an example, as a small example. Like for the Franciscan, if you talk, Pope St. Francis, he came, he got the custody of the Holy Land to protect all the places related to Jesus Christ. All right, that's why they are very powerful. And if you own territory, so that's why they are controlling it. The only time they are helping the best, I think, I mean, among the best people who are helping the local Christians are the Franciscans by building houses, by providing a fund for education in schools and in universities, all right? But these funds are not part of their budget. If they have funds coming out of the country, if they bring funds for building project, they do it. If they don't have the fund, they don't do it. Because this is the problem. The problem is we as local indigenous Christians or Palestinian Arab Christians, we are under the church, but we are not the priority of the church. This is the most important thing. And we have, as local Christians, of course, we have to make them understand that they are as entity, they cannot live without Christians. I mean, the thing is, many of these churches, I'm not generalizing Bishop Yunan, but I'm telling you, the churches in the Holy Land, all the church as entity in the Holy Land, they don't see that the local Christian community is is an affecting role, or they play role in their presence. But as a local Christian, we are so much affected by the presence of the church. All right, so this is the problem. If a priest or a clergy person comes, he knows that if I do something for the local Christians, it's not my priority. It is not my priority. It's but because I have the money for it to do it. And this is big part of why the governments are not helping the organization to sustain or maintain the Christian presence in the Holy Land. I mean, the NGOs, like the NGOs here, it's all talking about, everybody works on it, knows that if you have the fund, you do the plan, you present it. But no, I have, like for instance, I can, if I have a set strategy and set goals, I can increase or double the funding that are coming to the church to help the Palestinian people in general, by presenting new ideas or by educating the West about who they are funding. Bishop Yunan, this is one of my favorite things that happens with me during my work. I know how you look at guides, and I'm with you totally. I mean, they are looking for money, and this is a policy that it was planned by the education that we took from the Israeli government. I mean, in order to be a guide, you have to go through the Israeli Minister of Tourism to do the course. But anyway, this is another issue totally. But one of the things, you know how many people, pilgrims, from Catholics, Greek Orthodox, Protestant, Anglican, Lutheran, they are coming here and they come and tell me, oh, Usama, you know what? Every month I paying money for a Jewish family to survive and to have dinner at supper. Imagine the idea how the evangelical Christians or the Zionist ideology interfere with the minds of these people, that a very dedicated Catholic or a Protestant or to the land, and he coming on a pilgrimage, he will be paying a monthly salary or a monthly payment for a Jewish family that they are poor in the old city of Jerusalem and they don't have food at supper. So imagine the idea that they are presenting over there. Advocacy and awareness is a very, very important. I mean, the idea of they are introducing in the West all kinds of things that is really makes us as a local Christian as well as the church totally a big at risk.
Thank you. Thank you, Usama. Thank you. Thank you, Usama. I hope we at PASSIA and many other institutions will continue to facilitate a platform to share ideas and develop positions and interests and needs of all our community in terms of whether it is a crisis of identity or a crisis of what you call it nowadays, a narrative or confused narrative. I expect Adnan to close with his final statement.
I was going, actually, my final statement was to ask you to close, Dr. Mahdi. But again, I thank all of the participants. I thank Dr. Usama for his thoughts, which were unorthodox, something that we have not been hearing very often. I also thank all the participants. Actually, it was one of the, even though there were only 3 speakers aside from Dr. Usama, but the number of participants was actually quite impressive for a Zoom meeting and for a similar round table. We had like 37 participants in the room at the time. And I think that this was kind of impressive, and it's indicative of the interest on this subject. From the standpoint of PASSIA, we consider ourselves a Palestinian organization, and we don't have any issue that is out of bounds as long as it is Palestinian and it concerns the Palestinians. And for this reason, we are honored and we feel that it is a duty for us to be working on such a project funded by the European Union. And we thank the European Union again for their support for this project that deals with Christians as well as Muslims, with Christian heritage as well as Muslim heritage equally. We look forward to continue the discussion, and we thank you all for participating.
شكرا.
Thank you. شكرا.
يعطيكم العافية.
By the way, we will find a way to try to send you a copy of Dr. Usama's thesis, or at least an executive summary of it, and to keep the discussion going.
إن شاء الله. شكرا كثير.
Thank you all.
يعطيكم العافية.
يعطيكم العافية.